The news from Israel that you don't get to see on CNN and Sky News and all of those news channels, well, you'll get it right here on the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks. I will bring it to you every Monday to Thursday with the aid of these guys, lay of the land. And just a reminder to everybody, if you do have questions that you would like to ask me, please do so in the comment section below. Keep it clean, people. I've seen some dodgy questions. If they are related to Israel or the Jewish people or the situation in the Middle East, I am happy to take them. And today we have another quite contentious question. A big thank you to Lisa Mervis for hers yesterday. Lisa, if you're watching, there was quite a warm response to the question. It was an issue that many people wanted to understand a lot more about. And if you didn't tune into yesterday's show, the issue that we spoke about was the issue of settlements, a very, very controversial issue, both here in Israel and around the world. So it is day 263 of Israel's war with Hamas. We remember it was started on October the 7th with the atrocities during the invasion committed by Hamas. We also want to remind viewers that Hamas is an internationally recognized terrorist organization proscribed in many countries. Now, proscribed means that if you are a supporter of Hamas, you could face significant jail time. So on with the headlines, and we begin with news that was just absolutely harrowing yesterday, and that was a press release from the Hostages and Missing Persons Forum that announced that around 7 o'clock last night, Israel time, they would be releasing a longer version that showed the kidnapping of 3 hostages that still remain in captivity: Hirsch Goldberg Polin, Elia Cohen, and Or Levy. And I must be honest, I was bracing myself for this footage because I have to tell you that I'm still profoundly traumatized by the footage of watching the young girls being kidnapped from their army base at Nahal Oz. And this footage, lasting about 1 minute 37, was just as traumatic and just as harrowing. I'm not going to go into great detail. It is on social media. It is out there for the public to see. And the reason it's out there for the public to see is that we are very concerned that outside of Israel, our hostages are fading from global consciousness. And we don't want people to forget that there are still 120 people, some still alive, some who have been murdered, that are being held in captivity. Yesterday, the IDF announced that Sergeant Major Mohammed Al-Tarash, a father of 13, was killed on the 7th of October. His body is in captivity. Mohammed Al-Tarash, proof that on the 7th of October, Hamas did not discriminate between Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian. They came for us all, and that is why we want the global community to remember that there are hostages, and to make sure that the media doesn't forget, and to make sure that governments don't forget. John Goldberg Polin, speaking to the media, said that the reason that they wanted this footage released is that people understand that behind the word hostages are real people with hopes, with dreams, and with families who desperately want them to come home. And I'm not going to say bring them home. I'm going to say release them now. Earlier today, the deputy chief of Hamas's political bureau, Abu Mazouk, told a Russian publication that should there be a ceasefire deal. Now remember, Hamas has turned down every ceasefire proposal, which is ironic, seeing so many of their supporters call for a ceasefire now. Abu Mazouk said that should there be a ceasefire, they will release the 2 Russian hostages first. Yesterday, it was announced that over 100 families and victims of the 7th of October will be filing a class action suit against UNRWA. This is the United Nations Relief Works Agency at a federal court in the United States. The suit alleges that over a decade, UNRWA has funneled about $1 billion, the numbers are staggering, $1 billion in aid earmarked for civilians in the Gaza Strip to Hamas, and that this aid has been used to build tunnels, it has been used to fund the programs of incitement in schools and in the media, and that it was used for Hamas to fund their terror activities. And they also allege in the suit that members of UNRWA not only have held hostages, but also participated actively in the atrocities committed against civilians on the 7th of October. That includes kidnapping. We know that some of our hostages were held by UNRWA staff, murder, and rape. There is that infamous footage of Jonathan Samerano's lifeless body being dragged by an UNRWA social worker into a truck and to be taken into the Gaza Strip. And we know that UNRWA staff celebrated and participated actively in the murder, the rape, the looting, and the kidnapping of civilians. UNRWA, which is an organization that is a watchdog of the United Nations, also exposed that Fatih al-Sharif, an UNRWA worker, is also a senior Hamas member. So Philippe Lazzarini, you are the head of UNRWA. You have a lot of questions to answer, and we will be following this lawsuit very, very closely. Israel's National Security Advisor Tzachi Hanegbi, addressing the annual conference at Reichman University earlier today, stated that there is a plan for the day after in the Gaza Strip and that the practicalities of it will be made public, he said, very, very shortly. Hanegbi seemed to echo Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari's statements last week. Now, Hagari is the chief spokesperson of the IDF, when he said that you can't eliminate Hamas completely. Hamas is an idea. And what he meant by that is that you can devastate Hamas's military capabilities, you can devastate their abilities to govern, but they're still an idea. And as I just said with regards to the previous story, that you have generations who are inculcated with this incitement and hatred of Jews and this want and this goal to destroy the state of Israel. Hanegbi said that there is an alternative plan, and what they envision happening is a government in the Gaza Strip made up of civilians who are prepared to live alongside the state of Israel, and that this plan would be backed by moderate Arab states. And he says that it is starting to take shape, and we will start to see the plans and the processes and the practicalities made public very, very soon. Hanegbi also went on to speak about the situation with Lebanon. He said that in the coming weeks, Israel will be focusing on how to de-escalate. He says that a diplomatic solution is favorable to an all-out war. As we know, since the 8th of October, tensions have been escalating and certainly have been gaining momentum over recent weeks on our northern border, as Hezbollah, another proxy of Iran, fire rockets, drones, mortars onto Israeli population centers and onto Israeli targets. Now, he said that Israel is expected to try and look for as much of a diplomatic solution as possible. And on Friday, Hassan Nasrallah, he is the chief of Hezbollah, threatened not only Israel, who he said is completely within the sights of Hezbollah, but also the Mediterranean country of Cyprus. This prompted a very harsh response from the EU, who said that if you threaten Cyprus, you also threaten 26 other European Union states. and Politico have reported that the United States have reportedly told Beirut that should Israel need to launch a full-scale invasion, they will not be able to support Beirut. They say that they will not have or they will not be taking Beirut's side should Israel have to launch an invasion as a result of non-stop attacks and aggression coming from Lebanese sovereign territory. So what I read into that is the United States are saying rein in Hezbollah now, make sure that they are compliant with UN Resolution 1701, which holds them north of the Litani River, because we will not support you if Israel has to go to war. Let's take a look now at that very, very controversial question for today. And it comes from Lucille Hunt in South Africa, who says, can you tell us why the Israeli government knew about 710 but ignored it? I'm going to preface this by saying that maybe this question wasn't written in the spirit that it was meant, because the question in the way that it was written basically alleges that our government knew about the attacks and basically allowed 1,200 people to be slaughtered, over 250 to be taken captive in Gaza, and women and girls and some of our males to be raped and families to be burnt alive. But I'll tell you what we do know. First of all, the State Comptroller is investigating the government to see if there were any warnings, to look at correspondence. For the moment, because we are at war, they have halted the investigations into the Shin Bet and into the IDF. Now, the IDF are conducting their own investigation, and earlier today, former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, addressing also the Reichman University conference, said that it was a complete and total failure on the part of the State of Israel. So while I won't say that the government ignored perhaps any warnings, any concerns, any signs, I think that maybe their focus was elsewhere. Of course, last year the issue of judicial reforms was front and center, and that seemed to be the area of focus. Perhaps they didn't take warnings seriously. We don't know if there was a breakdown in communication. We will know more once these investigations are underway and their findings are made more public. But I think to imply that the government knew that people were going to get murdered, raped, and kidnapped, I think is a great leap, a great stretch. The State of Israel takes pride in the safety and the security of all of our citizens. And yes, a massive, massive, massive mistake, error in judgment, complete and utter dropping of the ball, complete and utter disaster and shortcoming happened. But it most certainly was not anything that could ever be sanctioned by the government. I hope that answers your question, Lucille. Thank you for sending it in. So those are our headlines and our question for the day. Please don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have a lot of new content up there. And we are also on YouTube at The Israel Brief, on Facebook at Lottel's Site, and on X at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rolene Marks with your Israel Brief. Guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.